Hi everybody, Jamie here from Starter Riot and welcome to my Albums of the Year list. Now just a disclaimer before we get started, this is just my opinion. If you don't agree, then that's great. I want to know your opinions. Get them in the comments below. I want to know what you think of this list and what your albums of the year are. Right, let's get started with number 20. Number 20 is Trophy Eyes Chemical Miracle. Now this album passed me by a little bit when it came out, but going back to it, it is one of the most underrated albums of the year. The Australian punk band have created a genuinely great mix of melodic emo rock on tracks like Chlorine and Home Is, and blisteringly fast hardcore. The track Rain On Me is one of the heaviest songs of any genre that I've heard this year. This is a band that's definitely expanding their audience beyond their pop punk heartlands, and a tour with Moose Blood in the US next year will only strengthen that fan base. 19 is PINEGROVE's Cardinal. This might have come out right at the start of the year on indie emo label Run for Cover, but much like Julian Baker's sprained ankle at the end of last year, this has captured an audience way beyond that genre. Evan Stevens Hall's voice, the heartfelt delivery on this tracks like Cadmium and Old Friends are absolutely beautiful. It really breathes life into this mix of country, indie, emo and rock music. Absolutely brilliant, and they are fantastic live. If you do get the chance to see them, definitely check them out. Number 18 is White Lungs Paradise, an absolutely amazing album. Not many albums sounded like this year. Kind of reminded me of Pretty Girls Make Graves going back a few years there. This is their fourth album. It's a riotous charge of fuzzy punk mixed with technical riffs all the way through. The real star of the show though is vocalist Mishway, not just in an amazing snarling delivery, but the fantastic lyrics you would expect from an accomplished writer. Number 17 is Kevin Devine's Instigator. Now on his 9th album, I really feel like Kevin Devine could have just phoned it in for this album. His last two albums, Bubblegum and Bulldozer, both came out at the same time, contain some of his best work to date, and on your 7th and 8th albums, that is no mean feat. He has a much more personal take on politics on this album. The song No History is about 9/11, and as a lifelong New Yorker, he obviously has very personal memories of that day. The track Freddie Gray Blues obviously talks about the Black Lives Matter movement. Also lovely personal songs about his new fatherhood. Brilliant album. Number 16 is Yearbook's I Stopped Somewhere Waiting For You. And now they left it late in the year to drop this album, and when they did, they also announced that it'd be their last release, which is a crying shame. This is an astounding album, managing to take the hauntingly quiet to deafeningly loud dynamic to new levels with tracks like Faster But Slow. They've got genuine bangers with songs like Only Love and The Great Destroyer, and genuine innovation with the incredible Wild Machine. I really hope this band reconsiders their breakup and at least does a tour in 2017. Number 15 is Apologies I Have None's Pharmacy. This is a stunning album, but it is a struggle to get through at times. Not because of the quality of the songs, but the subject matter is so heavy. It mostly talks about mental health issues and substance abuse issues. The music is as intense as those subjects demand it be. They open the album with Love and Medication, which is actually quite a sweet song, but it really doesn't prepare you for what's to come. The next track, Wraith, comes in so heavy, pounding drums and smashing guitars. Lyrics like, I swear if you mention suicide again, I'll kill you myself, let you know that this is not a sugar-coated take on heavy subjects. Number 14 is Petrol Girls' Talk of Violence. Now, for me, Petrol Girls are the successors to Refused and their album The Shape of Punk to Come. They got the same fire and ferocity that the Swedish hardcore band did back in the 90s. This anarchist feminist band screamed their way through issues like the refugee crisis, Tory cut, and the female orgasm. The level of quality in these songs is just something else. It's easy to have a political message, but to wrap it up inside fantastic songs as well is no mean feat. Number 13 is, appropriately, Every Time I Die's Low Teens. Now, singer Keith Buckley had a glimpse of mortality when his wife had complications with the premature birth of their daughter. He took the fear and trepidation of that event into the writing of this album, and it only created something more intense and heavy than they've ever produced before. Their most commercially successful album, and it is no surprise why. This is some of their finest work to date. At number 12 is Basement's Promise Everything, their long-awaited comeback album after they split up in 2014. Basement brought both the energy of their first album, I Wish I Could Stay Here, and the sing-alongs of Colour Me and Kindness, and mashed them with great ballads like Aqua Sun and Oversized. This is an amazing album worthy of the Basement back catalogue, and title track Promise Everything definitely could be a lost Nirvana song. Number 11 is Into It Over Its Standards. The emo Death Cab for Cutie did the cliched lock yourself in a log cabin and write an album, and they came back with their masterpiece. The dynamics on this album are incredible, from the frantic opening to no EQ to the incredible Your Lasting Image. Getting to hear this performed live in full was one of the highlights of my year, and that's why it's made it into this list. On to the top 10 then. At number 10 is TOUCHÉ Amoré's Stage 4. Now the tragic story behind Stage 4 has been written about a lot, but it is inseparable from the album. The lyrics are so poignant and moving that it really can be a difficult listen at times. Add Julian Baker's heartbreaking vocals to the mix on the last track, and you really can be reduced to a blubbering mess. Tracks like Palm Dreams also bring something that TOUCHÉ Amoré didn't have before, which is sing-alongs. Jeremy Bolm actually sings on this album, and it really does add an extra element to TOUCHÉ Amoré. Bit of a shift in tone. Number 9 is Joyce Manor's Cody. Joyce Manor released an album as catchy as the goddamn Beatles in 2016, and I really think that I will still be listening to this album in 50 years' time. Fake ID is definite contender for the best song of the year. That refrain, "What do you think about Kanye West?" I think that he's great. I think he's the best. Just stuck in my head over and over on a loop. I just can't stop singing it. This album just whizzes by before you know it's over and you want to listen to it again. Number 8 is Milk Teeth's Vile Child. Now, January seems like a long time ago, but at the start of the year, Milk Teeth released an album that was the culmination of everything they've been working on for the last 2 years. Songs like Brainwork, Burger Drop, and the amazing Kabuki show that the potential from this band is incredible. Unfortunately, the rupture that led to the guitarist and singer Josh Bannister leaving the band is quite evident on the fractured sequencing in the album and the massive contrast between songs like Burger Drop and Get a Clue. Number 7 is Martha's Blisters in the Pit of My Heart. One of the UK DIY scene's leading lights released their second album in the summer and received accolades from all around, and it's a bloody good reason why. Bubblegum pop mixed with thrashing pump injects every song with an energy and vibrancy that you don't see in many albums. Tracks like Chekhov's Hangnail, Ice Cream and Sunscreen, and Goldman's Detective Agency soundtrack my summer, and they definitely will for years to come as well. And number 6 is Thrice's To Be Everywhere Is To Be Nowhere. Now, if any bands need a guide on how to release a comeback album, you'd do well to take note from Thrice. On their 9th album, Dustin Kensrue's voice has only got more soothing over time. While Thrice can still rip out the aggression on tracks like Blood on the Sand, it's the softer moments on this album like Black Honey, Opener Hurricane, or the amazing close of Salt and Shadow where they really show their quality. Sometimes bands just need a break and a bit of perspective to clear their heads and write one of the finest albums of their career. And number 5 is Modern Baseball's Holy Ghost. Now, Modern Baseball's third album took a bit of a different format. This is essentially a split between Jake Ewald's Modern Baseball and Brendan Lucan's Modern Baseball. The two split the writing duties between side A and side B, and what followed was a more candid and heartfelt Modern Baseball album. The opening tracks, Holy Ghost and The Wedding Singer, really hook you in for the incredible journey it's to follow. The back end of the album really captures the raucous spirit of their live show, and also the struggle of a man trying to cope with bipolar disorder and substance abuse issues. This is both an important album and a fantastic album. Number 4 is Doe's Some Things Last Longer Than You. This DIY punk album flows beautifully, pauses for breath at all the right moments before exploding into rage. This album's not as chaotic and frantic as some of their earlier releases. It is more patient and more melodic. Songs like Karim will rival bands like even Petrol Girls and Every Time I Die for ferocity, and the brilliant bangers like Sincere and Last Ditch are just sweet, brilliant pop songs. Before this album, Doe were creeping into my favourite bands. With this, they've definitely cemented their place in there. An absolutely brilliant album. And number 3 is Boston Manor's Be Nothing. Now, the Blackpool 5-piece broke free of the shackles of pop punk for this album and explored new territory in alternative rock, emo, punk and hardcore. They explored the nuances of each of this genre with a much more mature and intelligent sound. It's still filled with the anger of youth, but with the added cynicism of adulthood. Tracks like Lead Feet and Leica show an incredible level of songwriting. The lyricism and the vocal performance on this album by Henry Cox just blows everything they've done before away. Going from the harshest shouts to the sweetest melodies, it really is a step up. The amount of character and performances of songs like Broken Glass and Forget Me Not really elevate this album from just another pop punk album to one of the pop punk albums of the last 10 years. Number 2 is Muncie Girls From Kaplan to Belsize. Now, when I first heard lead single Gas Mark 4, I wasn't the only one instantly hooked into Muncie Girls' catchy sound with a heavy dose of punk and political themes. Celebrity fan Mark Hoppus gave them a fair amount of attention, and it's fair to say that people definitely took notice. The first 4 tracks on this album would rival any album released recently. A searing take on modern politics and the education system in Learning School, the expression of the desire to disappear we all have sometimes on Gone with the Wind, and the beautiful and heartbreaking Bloom really set the tone for the best UK album of this year. Muncie Girls have gone on from this album to tour the UK and Europe several times this year, and surely the only way is up for this young, exciting band. And my number one album of the year is Pup's The Dream Is Over. Now, if 2016 is the year that collectively kicked us all in the groin, then Pup are the band that stood up and screamed, "Fuck you." Now, it has been one of the worst years on record for a lot of people, but also some of the best music that I've heard in years have come out this year. No band sums up the defiance and the will to carry on like Pup. The genuinely incredible first two tracks, If This Sword Doesn't Kill You I Will and DVP, are two of the best tracks, not just this year, but of the last 10 years. Everyone knows the story of the title behind the album. Stefan's doctor told him that the dream is over when his vocal cords are shredded. But like the Hellraisers they are, Pup carried on regardless and released the finest album of 2016. This whole album is just brilliantly relatable, whether it's getting sick of your friends, getting too drunk and making an idiot of yourself, or just your pet dying. None of it gets put down. They always dust themselves off, get back up and get back on the road, and that is what they have done throughout 2016. They play 250 shows a year. And if this album isn't defiance, not just of Stefan to his doctor, but Pup to the music industry and the youth of today to the world that continuously tries to crush us, this is my album of 2016 for that reason. And those are my albums of the year. I want to know what you think, guys. Get your albums of the year in the comments below. Do you agree with my list? Do you think Pup should have been number one? Would you have put any album higher? Would you have put any album that wasn't in there in the list? Guys, if you enjoyed this video, give us a like, subscribe to the channel. We've got a preview of 2017 coming up. That's all from me. Have a great Christmas and New Year. We'll see you for Thank Punk. It's Friday and more interviews coming up. For now, see you later.